Hey traders, Nick here again doing more homework off hours. You just got a huge video from me, if you remember, about mega caps, a FangMat 2 follow-up to last week's FangMat that prepared us for last week's disaster. We have now for this week's disaster follow-up or rebound. I also in the last 2 weeks I shared videos, I believe early January and then a little bit later, about Bitcoin. It's important because it trades all weekend, right? So, and then it's continuing to drop. It fell with stocks like we thought it would. I'm a proponent of Bitcoin, so I'm sniping entries. And you're seeing gobbledygook for a reason, because in my last video I drew this gobbledygook, and that's a screenshot of it. And so this is where the stock was at the time. This is Bitcoin futures. To be consistent, I'm going to show you that and then use that to tell you where I think it's headed. So Head and Shoulders had already triggered, and I said usually I don't trade loss of trend level on Head and Shoulders. I would rather see level loss. I said, okay, I still trust it as long as they hold this, and they didn't. I said if they don't hold it, they fall below it, they try to recover it, and then they continue on lower, right? And that's exactly what happened. So since that video, they fell through it, they tried to recover it, they failed, and then they're bleeding towards that gap. And I believe that's what's going on here. So that was, they tried to recover it, and now they're bleeding towards the gap. And over the weekend, I believe it fell as low as like 36,000 or something, maybe 35 and change. Depends on what exchange you're tracking. One thing's clear. The bears are in charge of it for now, which was expected. I thought, if I told you, if we lose the low 40s, it could go to the to the low 20s with a lot of supports in between. Don't fall out of bed if you didn't catch the last video. I was very pragmatic about it, and I moved money in there to buy along the way. So what did I do? When I saw the lows, I wanted to buy a hell of a lot more, and I didn't. I refrained, and I just added a little bite of the coins I like. And you know the coins I like. If you remember, you know the coins I like. Bitcoin represents all of them. If Bitcoin is falling out of bed, they're all falling. Faster or slower, doesn't matter, they're all falling. The Bitcoin is the chief coin in charge. If it rallies, they're all going to follow it. So the plan is still the same. The plan is unfolding as we called it. And I did say that there's a lot of support between here and the low 20s. Maybe it goes there, maybe it doesn't. Maybe it goes lower, I don't know. But it doesn't need to go lower. The technical perspective is the low 20s would satisfy the machines, in my opinion. So if it goes below that, there's something else at play, which is fine. So I won't go all in. I will nibble all the way down. Once I'm comfortable with the bottom, I will invest in size, relatively speaking, for the long term. And if it comes out to be a super strong bounce, guess what? I'm out. So I may leave a few, but I will be out. So far, I've traded coins relatively well. Okay, so I'm going to continue this strategy. Buy crashes, book profits. Buy crashes, book profits, and build little positions for the long term to pass on to my family. So central banks are whacked out of their minds. This is an alternative. Gold is an alternative. This is an alternative. Hell, cars are an alternative to money, because what the central banks are doing is just lunacy. Just in case, Bitcoin, it doesn't have to be money. It's just something that people love. Supply and demand. Demand is high. It's a limited supply, so price is going to have some value to it. Not too long ago, it crashed down to $3,850. Boy, was that a good opportunity to buy. If it goes down below 10,000, I may actually sell a few cars and dump them all into Bitcoin. But anyway, I digress. The strategy is still the same. Let me see if I can go to, so this is the Bitcoin future. So I'm going to switch to the Bitcoin quote, BTC USD, as opposed to BTC_F, which is the future. This is more orderly, and then it shows this flash low. So that confirms the point of interest here. And now we're well below it. So this was the low 40s. That was my trigger. I said, if we lose this one, I don't think this one will hold. I believe those are my exact words. And we lost it. They try to recover it. Nope. Now they're well below it. Short-term bounce is possible, but I bet They faced resistance. They faced resistance. Those were notes that from before. They need to recover the necklines. They needed to recover the necklines. They couldn't. That's a lot of overhead supply. They fall below it. So now what? Now the downside scenario is unfolding. What is, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. What is it? Big giant head and shoulders. Downside is as big as this from here. So somewhere in the low 20s technically would satisfy that. In the way of that, there's this whole cluster of support. So if we get the chance to get it in the 30 area, for me, that would be an addition spot, bigger than what I did in the last couple of days. Because at 35, it was attractive enough for me to take a little bite. We're talking some very minimal stuff to relieve the itch of doing massive stuff. If I get the opportunity to get at 30 or 29 or 31 or 28, I will engage much more. So this is a speculative bet because a lot of people still don't think it's real. It is fake, people. It's made by people. Everything made by people is fake. You can't find it. You know, gold is a piece of rock in the ground. We fake it into having more value than it actually. It doesn't do anything. It just sits there pretty on our wrists. But people want it, so it's fake. The Mona Lisa is fake. People love it. So it doesn't mean it's not valuable. Fake or not doesn't really matter. What matters is it's got value for reason A or B. As long as that reason is there, and it's there, supply and demand, hey, it's going to be in demand and it's going to have value. At what point do you think it's going to be more valuable, this and that? This is where the judgment calls come in. So here, support zone failed, support zone failed, support zone failed, and now it's all overhead resistance. Let them bleed it down. And the lower it goes, the better for me. I hope that it doesn't do that because a lot of people are invested in it. But if it does, I'm pouncing. So, reiterating the message I had before in my prior videos. I like it, the concept. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not in love with it. I'm not the rah-rah fan for it. But I am definitely standing and making the argument for somebody that says it's BS. Because that doesn't make sense. You're ignoring the best. If you're an investor and you say, I choose to ignore the best investment in the last 10 years, well, that's Bitcoin. It's bar none. There's nothing better in return as far as asset class than what crypto did. Even Doge. So the quote joke. So it is, in fact, Doge is a currency. They use it for payment. That's why it existed anyway. So do your homework. It could all blow up, just like any money could all blow up, but it is here and it has value. I'm waiting for a better entry point to accumulate a larger position, and I will trade around that position on the way down and on the way up. I may leave a core position going forward. It is risky. It's not FDIC insured. The platforms are risky. So if you take a platform that's outside of the US, it's not recognized here, they can shutter their doors and take your money. I don't know. I had a scare with crypto.com recently. I couldn't log in. They said you need two-factor authorization. It wouldn't recognize my fingerprint and my password. And I used Google two-factor authorization tool. It refused it. They asked me to send a video of my torso showing while I'm speaking that I wanted. I was like, no. And then about half a day later, they fixed it. So now I have a little nagging voice in the back of my head saying, well, maybe I should invest in another Bitcoin trading company as well and spread the risk between both, which I may end up doing. So I'm just scaring people out of thinking that it's a sure win. It's not. It's risky and riskier than others. That's why it pays a lot more than others. But it's right here as far as an opportunity. All right, so hopefully that was a little blurb about Bitcoin. And I say Bitcoin, I really mean crypto. So if you like Cardano, go with that. If you like Ethereum, Ether, the coin, go with that. So ADA would be the Cardano coin. Solana would have SOL is the coin. That's a really good opportunity there, in my opinion. CRO is the Crypto.com supporting coin. So there's a difference between coin and a token. Some coins don't do anything. I don't think they're called coins. Those are the tokens. They just sit there and look pretty like Shiba Inu. They have unlimited supply to a degree. So if it's an investment, I would want to invest in something that does. that has a function, like the top three I named. Bitcoin doesn't do anything, but it represents the whole thing. It's like gold doesn't do anything, but it represents like the precious metals. So that's kind of the same thing. I mean, I get weird reactions when I compare it to gold. It's like the perfect comparison. Gold is just contrived value. At one point, it was just a piece of rock on the ground, yellowish looking rock. Somebody convinced somebody else somewhere that, hey, it's worth exchanging that for a goat. And then it took off. So then they said, hey, it looks better on me than the goat. So just kidding. But you get the concept. So it was not worth anything until people said so. And then the concept took off. The concept of Bitcoin already took off for different reasons. Whether real, fake, pretty, not pretty, digital, not digital, you believe in it, you don't believe in it. I don't like art particularly. I don't appreciate art. Like, I'm not a connoisseur of art. But if somebody said, hey, you can buy this hideous looking painting, in your opinion, right here for $5,000, and you can flip it for that guy over there for $15,000, I'd buy it. I don't believe in it. I think it's hideous. But hey, that guy is willing to pay $15 for it. Sold. I'll buy it here, sell it there. That's the same concept. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps people get some levity on the weekend, on a tough weekend after a tough week, so we can get back at it Monday. And believe it or not, I think it's tied to the stock market. If this one's collapsing, and this is pretty sharp drop for Bitcoin, it just adds to the problem in the markets and vice versa. So it's like a perfect storm. Death by 1,000 cuts these equity markets right now. Signing up.